Well, hello from Sweetwater. Wanted to share a video with you this evening. It is Saturday, I believe the 23rd of May. You wouldn't know by looking outside. We've been having some really unique weather for the month of May. You would think it was April, or maybe even February at times. Some of our lows have been in the 40s here, and it's just been raining. So regardless, all is good. The Lord does provide. There's plenty of grass out there for the sheep and the horses to eat, so we're thankful for these things. And it does replenish the aquifers for our water wells in this area. We're thankful for that as well. I want to get into the book of Luke again. Last week in our class, our 9 o'clock hour class at our church, I was sharing from the book of Luke, chapter 20. And we came off of a group of people called the Herodians, who were already asked Jesus a question about taxation, about, what's your thought on paying your taxes? What's your thought on, giving to the government? And Jesus just put them right in place. And he shared with them, he said, look at the coin, whose image is on it, and it's Caesar's. And he says, give to Caesar what is Caesar's. And just remarkable interaction and remarkable comebacks that he has. So beginning of chapter 20, the Pharisees and the teachers of the law were trying to put Jesus in the corner, and he dismissed them and sent them off running. Now the Herodians tried to put Jesus in a corner, and he put them in a corner and sent them off as well. And each time these groups became silent because the answers that Jesus Christ gave were just incredible. How he weaved himself right around from their questions to bring the question back to them and put them in a corner. And then, just being human beings, being fallible beings, they were not able to get them in the tight position that they so desired. So we see one more group here. Jesus has a lot on his plate this week. He's been doing his Father's bidding for 3 years, and he's coming to this point now that this whole thing's going to come to a climax, and he will be crucified, and he will be buried, and he will resurrect, and that's just a couple of days away. But these people keep trying to put him in a corner so they can get him in front of the governor faster than the actual timing is going to be. So now we see another group, the Sadducees. And this was a group of people who were part of the Sanhedrin. It was kind of the Supreme Court. It was the Supreme Court of that particular day. And the Pharisees made up that Sanhedrin as well. So there are various different groups with different thoughts and principles and different teaching that made up this Supreme Court in that first century Israel. And so the Sadducees, they had some pomp. They had some recognition. They were, esteemed guys, esteemed people, esteemed men, because of the positions that they held. So it was their turn to come before Jesus and ask him a question. Now we need to understand, the Sadducees did not that they didn't understand, they did not recognize, they did not believe in anything supernatural. They didn't believe in angels, they didn't believe in the resurrection from the dead, they didn't believe in anything supernatural. Spirits, afterlife. So pretty bland group of guys, wouldn't you say? It's here and now, and this is all we get. And if 60, 70, 80, 90 years is all we get in existence as a being, wow, that'd be pretty depressing. But no, we know that we have an eternity waiting for us with Jesus Christ. So I'm going to read a couple verses here, and we'll get on with this particular passage and move through it here. Some of the Sanhedrins, who say there is no resurrection, right from the beginning there, came to Jesus with a question. Teacher, they said, Moses wrote for us that if a man's brother dies and leaves a wife with no children, the man must marry the widow and have children for his brother. So if a man, particular brother, dies and he leaves a widow, the younger brother, if he's not married, according to the law in Deuteronomy, is not married, is obligated to marry that woman and to carry on his lineage for that firstborn son. Okay? Now, there were 7 brothers. Now this is, it's actually kind of comical. Okay? It's very bogus, and it has no foundation to it. Jesus Christ already knows they don't believe in the resurrection. He already knows that they don't believe in any supernatural situations or events that would ever take place. The healings, what do they think of the healings? What do they think of all these wonderful things he did for leopards? You know, leopards were healed at that particular century with Jesus walking on the earth. And guess what? There's never been a leopard healed again. Even to this day, I think they can control leprosy, but they can't heal it. So that phenomenon right there in it, of and by itself, is a wonderful miracle. The blind and those who couldn't hear, those who couldn't talk, Jesus healed them all. What do they think about all this? So anyhow, they're going into this dialogue with Jesus Christ in a very bogus way, because they don't even believe these things anyhow that they're asking him. And they're kind of like, well, what do you think of this, Jesus? You know, you preach resurrection all the time. What are you going to do with this question? So here's the question. The question is, the Sadducees asked a question, and it's said here in verse 29 or verse 20 in the book of Luke. Now, there were 7 brothers. The first one married a woman and died childless. The second and then the third married her. And in the same way, the 7 died, leaving no children. Finally, the woman died too. Now then, at the resurrection, whose wife will she be, since the 7 were married to her? Okay, so needless to say, it wasn't just one brother who died, and then the younger brother. I am looking for here it is. It's actually pretty cold and miserable, so this will help me here get along here. There are 7 brothers that bring up this hypothetical question, and it's ridiculous because they don't believe in this anyhow. And it kind of ties back to the other previous part of this chapter that I talked about regarding character and integrity. These guys came before Jesus Christ with no character or integrity. They're just trying to get him into a corner. Jesus, you know, there is a family, right? Jesus, there's his family. And the oldest brother married this woman. And, you know, after some time, he died. And then the second one married her, fulfilling his obligation as Kingsman Redeemer, as we read in the law of Moses in the book of Deuteronomy, I believe. Okay, this is how things were to move forward. Okay, so this is a biblical subject. This is reality in the nation of Israel. If a brother died and the younger brother did not marry, then he was basically obligated to marry that woman. Okay. Now, if he despised her and didn't want to marry her, there were ways that he can get out of it. You know, they swap. They get a sandal. She spits in his face, and it's just, you know, that's not part of the. I don't want to get into that here. There are ways to get out of it, so I don't want people out there to think, oh man, alive, he had no choice and no opportunity. I mean, what if she's a really difficult woman? I mean, you just don't know. And what if the younger brother's a difficult man? I mean, well, basically he fell on the responsibility of the man to marry her. Regardless, the first brother died. The second one married her. No children. Second one died. Okay, so now the third brother, he's not married. She still has not had any children. Okay, so he's obligated to marry her. So he marries her. No children. Okay, he passes away. She still has no children. Okay, and the premise of it is the brother who's not married is obligated to marry her. Okay, marry for life. Okay, but the first son that they have in their family is carries on the other brother's name. Okay, so he would not be forgotten, and his estate and things of that nature would continue on through the first son that they had together. Then all the other children were, the one who married the woman. Hope I'm making sense here, and I hope I'm being clear here, because it's a little confusing because it's so foreign to what we do today. in the States. Well, as a matter of fact, people just divorce. So I don't want to say that lightly, but we don't get into this situation. This would be so kind of bizarre in our Western culture today, for sure. They continue on, and they ask Jesus, as they continue on, they say, by the way, Jesus, all these brothers died, and there were 7 of them. Okay, after the resurrection, Jesus, and they're all in heaven. Well, this poor widow who went through 7 men, whose husband? Who's her husband? And do if you have been engaged in a career for 20, 30 years, or you're retired out of something very unique, or just, any career of what you've done, would it be in education, would it be like engineering or this or that, and somebody comes up to you and brings that subject up that you have lived in and that you have worked through for decades, and they start coming before you and trying to explain and teach you something about that subject. You're kind of looking at them like, first of all, you might want to just stop there because you don't know what you're talking about. And second of all, you're really starting to make yourself look foolish, because everything that you're trying to communicate to me, trying to demonstrate to me that you know everything about this arena of what I've studied all my life or what I've been engaged in all my life, just stop. Please stop, because they're making a fool of themselves because they fully don't understand the subject. Well, this is basically what's going on. The Sadducees come to Jesus Christ, and he knows they don't believe in anything supernatural. And what happens is they bring the subject up of the resurrection, and he knows they're bogus. He knows there's a duplicity in their heart, as well as the Herodians. They were following the same character trait here. And Jesus is like, seriously? Why would you even ask a question like that? And it's really cool. Here's Jesus's response. It's like, why would you even ask a question like that? Because you don't know what you're talking about. Because in the next life, in the resurrection, Jesus replies, and he says this in verse 34. The people of this age marry and are given in marriage, right? This is what we do. We marry, we procreate, we have children, and then they have children, and they have children, and we marry. And that's a human thing. God created man and woman. And this is what God desires for us to do. Multiply, fill the earth, procreate, within the category of marriage now, okay? So, Jesus says the people of this age, now that we're in, marry and are given in marriage. Verse 35. But those who are considered worthy of taking part in that age and in the resurrection from the dead, okay? Those who have come and have faith in their God and understand that he's the Messiah, or they look forward to him as being the Messiah, okay? And they had a faith and understood that this is their God, and they're going to spend eternity with him. They are the ones who are blessed, and they are considered worthy of taking part in the resurrection from the dead. These people will neither marry nor be given in marriage, and they can no longer die. In eternity, they can no longer die, okay? And they can no longer die, for they are like angels. They are God's children, since they are children of the resurrection. Okay? And he talks about Moses here. Jesus brings in the account of Moses, and he's talking about those who have died are living now, period. And he says, but in the account of the bush, even Moses showed that the dead rise, for he calls the Lord the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. He is not the God of the dead, but he is the God of the living, for to him all are alive. All right, so Jesus sees them approaching them. They're bringing this thing about the resurrection. They're giving this hypothetical question to Jesus. And then at the end, they're going to say, so in heaven, in eternity, there's this one woman who is married to the 7 men. Whose wife is she going to be? And Jesus says, you guys are bogus. Okay, don't you understand? First of all, those who are worthy, by the way, Sadducees, those who are worthy to be who are worthy to be resurrected, who know and accept it for who I am, as the Messiah, those who have looked forward in the future and understood the promises that I gave and believe by faith that the Messiah will come to redeem them from their sins, or after Christ died, we can look back, and those who had faith and understood that Jesus Christ did, past tense, die so that our sins can be forgiven, we can be redeemed. Those who are worthy of the resurrection, who dwell in eternity with me, who will be with me forever in glory and in heaven, guess what? They don't marry. And they're not given in marriage. Because, you know why? There's no death. And if there's no death, there's no need for procreation. Okay? They will be like angels. Okay? They will be part of the supernatural. And they will be like angels, and they will serve with angels. And, you know, the angels are the ones that are native born to heaven, right? They were there. They were born. This is what they were born into, or this is what they were, well, maybe not born. Let me go backwards. They were created. Okay. That was bad. They were created. God created them and put them in heaven. Now, a third of them, angels, fell, right? And went with Lucifer, the great rebellion, and they fell. And that's the demonic influences we have around our world today, and all the horrific things are going on. A lot of that's influenced because of the fallen angels, right? Jesus is trying to drive home a point here. Man, you don't get it. It's the most ridiculous question you're asking, and I'm seeing right through you. Okay? Those who are worthy of the resurrection, those who have come to know and accept who God is and accept what the Messiah represents and who he is, those who will dwell in heaven will not be given in marriage. Okay? There's not going to be any death in heaven, and there's not going to be any need for procreation in heaven. They will dwell with angels, they will serve with angels, and they will be like the angels. And they'll just be we will be beautiful beings as the angels are, and we will be in glory with him. He continues on here, and he basically puts them in place, okay? And now the Pharisees, who really don't like the Sanhedrin, who really don't like the Sadducees, but they share, a common body in the Sanhedrin, of course. But the Pharisees and the leaders and teachers of the law who watched Jesus ream out the Sadducees said this is comical, said this in verse 39. But some of the teachers of the law responded, okay? This is like the Democrats and Republicans maybe, okay? The Democrats just got reamed out and Republicans are saying this. Well, this is great. So some of the teachers of the law responded, "Well said, teacher," and no one dared ask him any more questions. Done. Okay, so we have this crowd, okay? So first of all, the teachers, these men who just praised God already had their tail whipped back here in the beginning of chapter 20. And God silenced the Pharisees and the teachers of the law with their horrific questions and trying to trip him up. Then the Herodians who tried to trip Jesus up, he silenced them as well. And now when the Sadducees came before Jesus and tried to trip him up, he silenced them as well. And it's like, don't they get it? They see this unique human being. Even if they didn't accept him as God, they didn't accept him as Messiah, he's totally unique in what he's doing. And he always has the answer to get back and redirect you and make sense out of what you're trying to say. So this is just a beautiful situation. So that wraps up the particular section I wanted to get through here in chapter 20. And we're almost wrapped up this chapter. And tomorrow, Sunday, I'll be sharing it at 9 o'clock again at our church. And we're going to get into some really unique scenarios in chapter 21 of the book of Luke. First, we're going to get into the widow and how she gave everything that she had. She presented it within her offering the two mites that she had, which was, I think, in our Western culture or in the States, Was it even worth a cent? Worth a penny? I'm not even sure it was worth that much, but that's all she had. And God was looking at her heart and how confident she was in her God. She gave everything that she did. She gave so much more than those who gave equivalent to thousands of dollars in that day. So it's just a beautiful story. And it actually took place, right? It's not a parable. So I'd love to meet this dear lady someday when I spend eternity with my God, and we'll hopefully have a good conversation together. Anyhow, that wraps up that chapter 20 here of the book of Luke, and we'll see you next week, and we'll get into chapter 21. Until then, be faithful, get into the Word, interact with your Father in prayer, get some quiet, meditate upon the Word, and not just the morning and evenings, but through the day, and ask the Spirit of God to give discernment and understanding of the Word, and to bring things alive for you.